2024 has been somewhat of a drought for Resident Evil as far as big new releases are concerned, and while the OG releases taking place on GOG have been awesome so far, what about the highly anticipated Resident Evil 9? What about the remakes Capcom is confirmed to be working on? Well, we've got two huge new rumors to go over regarding an RE9 update and another for those Code Veronica and RE0 remake leaks that surfaced a few months back. Again, these are just rumors, my friends, so if you're not interested in complete speculation and info that may not turn out to be true, I'll go ahead and say this video is definitely not for you. If, however, you'd like a complete update on every single leak and rumor for Resident Evil 9 throughout the years, and some insight into when we'll get the game's announcement, plus Code Veronica remake and RE0 remake updates, then this is the video for you. Participate in my Silent Hill 2 Remake Deluxe Edition giveaway if you're interested in that upcoming remake, linked in the description. First, let's get into the new Resident Evil 9 rumors that just surfaced. Insider on X and on Discord by the name Ignis days ago stated that Resident Evil 9 should be releasing in the second half of 2025, and went on to say that we can expect a teaser for it in the coming weeks and months. Ignis has been pretty spot on in regards to leaks regarding Black Myth Wukong, as his posts over on X accurately reflected that game's content months before the title's launch in August, and even correctly leaked that the game would get DLC post-launch. So, of course, take all these rumors with grains of salt here. Now, the second recent rumor regarding Resident Evil 9 is pretty insane, as thanks to this Reddit post, we're finding out on Threads that a Brazilian leaker discussing Sony's upcoming State of Play event stated that Resident Evil 9 would be present at this event. While the post didn't mention anything else regarding RE9, the post mentioned that at least 2 first-party titles would appear alongside an RE9 reveal. Seeing as this State of Play is really soon, I honestly would be pretty freaking surprised if this reveal came from this event, but perhaps a teaser could be revealed here with some more info to follow days later at Tokyo Game Show. But yeah, to be honest, I don't see an announcement for Resident Evil 9 coming as soon as this upcoming State of Play, but I would love to be wrong, so let me know in the comments what you think about these rumors. Alright, Resident Evil 9 and what we know of it so far. Again, none of this information has been confirmed by Capcom, and some of what we are about to get into has been pretty well-known information since the leaks started surfacing all the way back in August 2022. So if you'd like to learn more about potential aspects or just some unproven leaks for the game, you are in the right place. Let's first take a look back in August 2022, where the first leak surfaced over on 4chan, claiming that the working title for the game was Resident Evil Apocalypse. While I don't have the 4chan leak in front of me because I can't freaking find the original post, other content creators and Resident Evil fans have stated that Apocalypse would more or less reflect the following. The game would take place somewhere in the western regions of North America, where players would be able to explore caves, forests, rivers, and their natural surroundings, implying that the game would be on a scale much larger than the typical, more confined settings of Resident Evil. Apocalypse would revolve around the 9th moon cycle, where creatures like goatmen and wendigos would be the common enemies. These creatures were said to be able to transform and fool players into thinking they were friendly NPCs before attacking, which would admittedly create an interesting dynamic. Another enemy, called a Barghest, resembles a, quote, giant black dog with a twist, with the main antagonist being a woman called Glaistig, adorned in green and covered in gold. The player is said to be accompanied by a female bioweapon called Hunter, serving as your guide in the wilderness. The leak reportedly emphasized that there would be a greater focus on survival horror, as players could barricade themselves in houses, giving players a similar aesthetic to the village segments of RE Village. This leak also said it is very easy to get lost in the map, as Apocalypse's map is reportedly quite massive. Alright, so this leak basically serves as the basis for what much of the newer leaks have added onto, especially the most recent one. But the next leak that happened after this initial 4chan leak would come in June of 2023, where a now delisted Twitter post from user Chris Marks stated that Chris Redfield would be the main protagonist of Resident Evil 9. He further added that a slew of legacy Resident Evil characters would be accompanying Chris Redfield in this 9th mainline game, including the likes of Jill Valentine, Claire Redfield, and Leon S. Kennedy, which, if true, would be so freaking awesome. Definitely hope we get to see more of these legacy RE protagonists back in the series, but let's get back on track here. Fast forward to October of 2023, and Dusk Golem states 2 new tidbits of info. That Resident Evil 9 is the biggest budget Resident Evil game with the longest development time for any Resident Evil game to date, stating that it started development back in 2018 and that the game wouldn't release until 2025 at the absolute earliest. Secondly, Dusk adds that Capcom sees Resident Evil 9 as a closing act for some things, perhaps the Winter Saga, to make way for new story arcs to take the series in new directions. Sounds about right to me. Alright, we're getting closer to the most recent leak, but we're not quite there yet, because a few months ago, in February 2024, Dusk Golem stated that 5 Resident Evil games were in development at Capcom, with one of them being Resident Evil 9. In late March, Dusk explains that Resident Evil 9 and the upcoming Monster Hunter Wilds are building on Dragon's Dogma 2's updated RE engine, which further expanded the capabilities for open-world gameplay. He later posted that just as Dragon's Dogma 2 is like Dragon's Dogma 1 and Monster Hunter Wilds is like Monster Hunter, that RE9 will very much be Resident Evil, implying that the core DNA of Resident Evil will remain intact. Open world gameplay and RE is definitely new territory for the franchise, but considering the ambitious nature of this title, I'm hopeful that Capcom can pull this one off. In April 2024, Dusk would later state that he believed that Resident Evil 9, while intended to be revealed this summer for a release in 2025, would ultimately be pushed back to release later, and that another Resident Evil game would release in 2025 to replace what would have been Resident Evil 9's release. On May 3rd, Dusk went on to say that we should cast aside the recent statements regarding Resident Evil 9's delay, remarking that the game should be officially revealed soon and released in 2025, but later that month, on May 27th, flip-flopped yet again by stating that Resident Evil 9 had been pushed back to launch in late 2025 or early 2026. This was also the post where he announced that Capcom was working on 2 Resident Evil remakes, one being an RE0 remake and the other being an RE Code Veronica remake. In early June 2024, fans spotted Resident Evil 9 listed on PlayAsia, with the title's description revealing that the game would be called Resident Evil 9 Revenant Shadows, showcasing both Leon S. Kennedy and Jill Valentine in the title's cover art. Jumping to July 1st, during Capcom's Capcom Next stream, it was announced that the game director for Resident Evil 9 would be none other than Koshi Nakanishi, who had previously directed Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. That brings us to the present day in September 2024, where we have Ignis on his Discord reporting that Resident Evil 9 should be officially revealed in a teaser in the coming weeks and months, with an expected release in the second half of 2025. And the other report from a Brazilian poster over on Threads, claiming that Resident Evil 9 would be announced at the upcoming State of Play. So, I know that was a lot right there, going over what is heavily rumored to be a more open and sprawling Resident Evil. And with recent talks of announcements for the title to be expected sooner rather than later, I am still pretty confident that we are likely to hear about Resident Evil 9 before the end of the year. But let me know what you think of the game's history of leaks and rumors in the comments, and also let me know when you think we'll finally get the game's first reveal while you're at it. Before we wrap up, I mentioned that there was a new update to the Resident Evil Code Veronica and Resident Evil 0 remakes to go over. So here it is, where we have, yet again, Dusk Golem hitting us last week with his post on Discord, where he simply mentions that indeed Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil Code Veronica remakes are in production along with Resident Evil 9, but that these upcoming remakes would be less, quote, ambitious than the Resident Evil 4 remake, as Dusk believes that Capcom sees RE4 remake to be the, quote, crown jewel of remakes and the most challenging one to tackle in scale, scope, and expectation. Again, share in the comments what you think about this statement, but I honestly wouldn't worry about these words, as some are taking it in a way that Resident Evil 0 and Code Veronica remakes may be getting the RE3 remake treatment, where significant parts of that game's encounters and locations were cut. Whether or not you happen to be a fan of RE4 and its remake, there is no denying that Resident Evil 4 is, without a doubt, the most significant and influential one of the modern Resident Evil games that shifted the games away from classic survival horror with fixed camera angles and introduced over-the-shoulder third-person action that not only completely changed Resident Evil going forward, but third-person shooters in the entire industry. Resident Evil 4 is also a really beefy game, sporting a single-player campaign that is quite a bit larger than almost every other Resident Evil out there. And while Resident Evil 0 and Code Veronica are certainly not as long, I wouldn't get worked up into thinking that these upcoming remakes would be handled with any less care. Fingers crossed though, and I hope to hear more about these upcoming remakes soon, but I'm definitely in the mood for more Resident Evil 9 going forward. So let me know in the comments which upcoming RE titles you are most interested in. And if you are also interested in the upcoming Silent Hill 2 remake, catch me over here in this video as we go over in detail everything new regarding this upcoming remake. And that's all I have for you in this one. Take care, good people, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.